More fun in Fall Harbor, and there really isn't much to do in this town. There's literally only one house, and it's the one that belongs to Professor Cosmo. And yes, Flannery is the next gym leader, and she's a fire type, and a rather dangerous fight at that because her Pokemon use Overheat. And oh, well, there's quite a selection in this Pokemart. As a rule of thumb, Pokemarts have a much better selection of items in the last two generations than in the first two. And yeah, now she's hesitating to evolve her Skitty or not. Here's my advice. Release the damn thing! Even as a Delcatty, it won't do you any good. I think the stats for Delcatty are like 70 across the board. That's not even Glalie stats. And why would I want to teach Metronome to anything? You can't get much more unreliable than Metronome. For every Sacred Fire you get, you're gonna get Splash or Tackle or Constrict or something like that like 50 times. So for the times you're gonna get something good like Sacred Fire or Draco Meteor or anything, it's just not worth it. And take a look at this. In the crater right next to Professor Cosmo's house, ta-da! A nugget! So while I'm near Pokemart, I'm just going to sell it. It's only going to take a second, and then we can set out to Route 114. Now there's one more house that's outside of Fall Harbor that's actually on Route 114, and it's the house of the Fossil Maniac. Oh no! Oh! I thought there was only one house, but there's a second one, and it's for the Move Tutor. Well, he calls himself the Move Tutor, but everyone calls him the Move Relearner because a Move Tutor is something that teaches moves like that Metronome chick you just saw, and for a Heart Scale, which you can steal off of Love Discs, or you can find them on the ground. I showed you how to get one near Dewford. And okay, this is the Fossil Maniac's house, and inside that house there's going to be a cave, and right now it's only a small cave, but after I beat the Elite Four it's going to become a lot larger. It's going to open up a dungeon called the Desert Overpass. I get a Dig TM, which is going to be very valuable because you need to be able to dig with something to catch the Reggies. And I'm not 100% sure on this, but it's the only Dig TM that you get, and there aren't many Pokemon that you can get in this game that are able to dig on their own, so hold on to this TM for dear life, because you're gonna need it for the Reggies. And yeah, he calls himself a nice guy, but the fossils are all mine! And anyway, what this cave is gonna do after the Elite Four, the Desert Underpass, is that at the end of the desert, you're going to find the fossil that you haven't picked up in the desert on your first trip there. We're going to go to the desert after the 4th gym, and once we get there, we're going to pick either the Root Fossil or the Claw Fossil. I'm going to pick the Root Fossil because I like Cradley more than Armaldo. But, yeah, we're going to be able to get the Claw Fossil in the Desert Underpass once we beat the Elite Four. But moving on, the reason why I'm doing this a double program, or maybe even a triple program if I don't finish it in this video, is because I haven't had the opportunity to talk much about the marathon yet. And obviously, if you were there, you'll agree with me that this is probably go down in history as a Metroid Prime 2 marathon. And I'm really fortunate that Metroid Prime 2 is one of my favorite games of all time, else I might be in such a state of mind that I would not want to hear anything about Metroid Prime 2 for the rest of my life. Now, for those that weren't there, the thing that happens is that they had a really good Metroid Prime 2 player that was supposed to play the game, but he had personal problems, and big ones at that, so he couldn't play the game, so it was up to Britt and Rob to play the game, and unfortunately for them, they had never played it before. It was a blind run. And if you've touched even one Metroid game, you will know that when you play a Metroid game for the first time, it's long. Really, really long. And so, yeah, I think they spent like 40 hours or so playing Metroid Prime 2, which is about as much or maybe even more than all the other games combined. But the important thing is that they hung in there, they persevered, and they beat the game. Unfortunately, I wasn't there for the big finale because I had to go to sleep at one point. I decided to do so after they'd collected all the Sky Temple keys, which was quite a scavenger hunt in and of itself, because when I came onto the chat yesterday early in the evening, they had all 3 keys that were in the Sky Temple grounds, but neither of those that were in Agan, neither of those that were in Torvus, and neither of those that were in the Ying Hive. And so I and a few other people in the chat decided to help to tell Britt and Rob where to go to get those keys, and it was really difficult to get heard because the chat was going so fast. Oh yeah, I remember, this guy is going to give me a roar TM because no one wants to approach him because he taught his Poochian a roar, and now, yeah, well, anyway, this... What was I saying? Yeah, the chat was going really fast. Not as fast as in other marathons, but still fast enough that the messages of those who were actually helping with the game were drowned out by everything else, basically. And yeah, there was one key in particular that was extremely difficult for them to get because the map is done so badly, and they had a strategy guide for the game as well, but apparently it was complete garbage. But as for the map in the game, it wasn't much help either, because there is a room in Sanctuary Fortress that is called the Dynamo Works. Now that room is actually 2 rooms in one, 2 separate rooms in one. In one of those rooms, there's a hallway with a portal, and in the other area, it's where you fight the Spider Guardian. And there's a tunnel where you can go from where you fight the Spider Guardian to that other hallway, but not the reverse. So they were in the hallway, they were trying to get to where they fought the Spider Guardian, and they couldn't make it. And I and a few other people in the chat were trying to tell the guys to go to the Sanctuary Temple, then move on to the Workers' Path from there, and at the end of the Workers' Path, there's the entrance to the room where they fight the Spider Guardian. But it was so difficult to tell them because the chat just kept flooding us. And they were hopelessly looking at their awful strategy guide. They were completely dumbfounded because it seemed like there was no way to get back to where they fought the Spider Guardian. But eventually, someone listened to me, and they eventually went to the Workers' Path, and from there they found the final key because that was the last key they grabbed. Yep, that was quite a hectic key collecting evening there. I'm going to remember that for a long, long time. And the funny thing is that we were this close to not being able to finish the game because they decided that they'd go into overtime. Heck, if they reached 10,000 at one point, then they'd continue. If they reached 11,000 at one point, and both times we were saved by a generous donator who gave several $100, and it was the same donator both times, so that's why they finished the marathon well into overtime into the night. I wish I'd been there to see the reaction of the chat when Dark Samus finally went down, but I couldn't stay on forever. I had to go to sleep. I went to sleep after they saved at the ship before they went to the Sky Temple. And that was not all after that, because they still had to play Fusion afterwards, and apparently it was, in terms of gameplay, the most amazing part of the marathon. A 1% run in 1 hour, 1 minute. I'm so angry right now because I missed Final Fantasy VI, and now I miss a supposedly awesome Metroid Fusion run. So I'm still not done yet, so this is going to be a triple program. So I'll be checking out Lanette's house soon. Just give me 5 minutes. No, really, the real deal. 5 minutes. Honest.